There's one thing that is irritatingly guaranteed to happen every single time a Souls-like title gets released, and it's the virtue signaling from frankly misinformed individuals desperately trying to appear virtuous to their viewers, whilst at the same time distracting from legitimate issues with Elden Ring specifically, via pushing for an easy mode within Souls-likes. And that is the very thing Jim Sterling decided to do in one of their Elden Ring videos. To say the very least, Jim makes genuinely no good points throughout their entire terrible video, because guess what? There are no good arguments for introducing easy modes into video games when the devs don't want to implement them. It's not accessibility, and if you want to watch a great video, then I'd recommend going to watch this one I just put up on screen and then coming back to this video. It's also linked in the description, by the way, because unlike many want to hear, Elden Ring does have serious problems with a lack of accessibility options, but people like Jim aren't interested in talking about that. They're only interested in virtue signaling, and easy mode has absolutely no purpose other than to appease people who typically have no interest in games alike to Elden Ring, even if they had an easy mode. So without further delay, let's get into this absolute shit show of a video.
Elden Ring has been released, and with it has come a flurry of discourse, but the only real point in this discussion to be acknowledged is that I'm a better Elden Ring player than you.
Shut up, bitch!
There is another thing insanely common amongst these terrible Elden Ring takes, and it's the perpetual and never-ending antagonization against the community. They adore antagonizing player bases in the most immature and pathetic ways possible, and then proceed to cry their eyes out over anyone even slightly responding to it in a negative manner. Grow up. Make this video without the constant nonsensical antagonization.
You know, I'm not one for the just shut up and play fucking video games rhetoric. I do, in fact, find it quite tasteless and borderline offensive at times. I'm often told to just shut up and play video games when I dare to talk about industry abuse or examine game industry trends through a mildly political lens.
Well, that's predominantly because you don't know how to do it, and you flat out refuse to ever try to improve your content, let alone listen to people telling you how to interject those topics into videos, although you should at all be interjecting political topics where they don't belong, because you do interject politics into subjects with completely and utterly no correlation to political discourse on an insanely consistent basis. You guys will see it throughout this video. It is why Jim has been bleeding subs for the past year or so. Their content is excruciatingly painful to sit through in the first place now, and it's also because they can't make a video without interjecting topics that don't in the slightest belong in them. It's gotten to the point I can honestly say I'd rather watch the annoying orange for 24 hours straight than watch a single video of theirs. I usually enjoy making videos, but my god, this one has been nothing but pure pain to make. The only reason I'm making this video is in the hopes I'll make bank off of it. Please make it do well. I'm not joking when I say this has been insanely painful to make.
When I talk about social issues on my social media, the just play games attitude prevalent in the online gaming community is intellectually lazy, philosophically cowardly, and typifies aggressively apathetic centrism that one finds embodied by the privileged entitlement of a class of nerds that has never had to think about a real problem in their lifetime.
Jim, please, for the love of God, shut the fuck up. You are in no position to be talking about other people's privileges or other people having never had problems in their lives. You're a fucking full-time YouTuber. The biggest problem you face from a day-to-day is people misgendering you on the internet and people being mean to you on the internet. You have no place to be talking down to your viewers or anyone for their privilege. Even though you are trans, you are far, far more privileged than the average YouTube viewer. It is a privilege to be a full-time YouTuber given to you by your viewers. You are nothing without them, and you are extremely privileged. And when your biggest problem in life are random people saying mean things on the internet to you, then you should honestly shut the fuck up and understand you are in no position to be lecturing others about their privilege. You are the one who has never had to think about a real problem in their lifetime, not the average YouTube viewer or the average Elden Ring fan. Also, quit spamming mildly sophisticated words into your scripts. It does not make you seem intelligent like you think it does. The effect it creates is the polar opposite, due to the fact absolutely no one who is intelligent has ever spoken like that. It is always the people desperately attempting to appear smart who talk in that manner.
As per the usual, the endless debate over game difficulty and accessibility has reared its all too familiar head, and while I usually wade into the fray with embattled diligence to argue that easy modes are perfectly acceptable, optional, and not at all problematic in literally any video game, I'm not going to argue anymore, because it's not an argument these days, it's just a performance.
You know what? I actually have to agree with this. This is all just a performance. Not a single person who uses the struggle of other people's daily lives in order to virtue signal gives a single fuck about their well-being. It's all, as you said, merely a performance intended to appear virtuous to viewers that never works. Easy modes would inherently break Elden Ring and Dark Souls in so many fundamental parts of these games that they would have to be completely reworked to the point you may as well make entirely new games. By the end of it, there'd be nothing special about sights and graces with an easy mode. You'd have to rework every single enemy's attack in the game, every single boss's attack in the game, every single enemy and boss's damage in the game, every single player attack in the game, every single potion in the game, all the summons, and the list goes on. There is no world in which an easy mode is even a reasonable suggestion in the first place, and at the end of the day, there's no need for it, because of things like summons, bleed, something I'm sure Jim is fully aware of, since the bleed effect has seemingly been affecting their channel for a decent amount of time. And magic also helps to make Elden Ring much easier. This idea that there's even a need for an easy mode is a flat out moronic one, and one with no basis in reality.
I've pointed out before that for all my show gets accused of repeating points, which it does, yes, actual gamer discourse is itself perpetually recycled garbage, the same tiny handful of debates repeating themselves over and over again. Stupid and insignificant controversies surrounding review scores, whether or not a game is too woke for daring to have women and queers in it.
This is exactly what I'm talking about in regards to the exact reasoning behind Jim bleeding so many subs on such an insanely regular basis. It's because of bullshit like this. They force political discussion into topics of which it does not belong. The very few people who unironically complain about female protagonists have nothing to do with Elden Ring or an easy mode. At this point, you're merely showing your audience you have nothing of value to say and that you are merely talking out of your ass here. There are no legitimate reasons for adding an easy mode into Souls-likes. That's why you consistently try so hard to demonize the other side of the debate. If you have no arguments to make, then just insult everybody and upload what can only be described as a terrible unhinged rant.
God, just fuck traditional gamer TM discourse. It's just so fucking puerile. And I've been doing this job for over 10 years and nothing's been resolved. Nothing has changed.
I do have to find it absolutely hilarious that Jim ever thought they'd have a legitimate effect on the gaming industry. You're a YouTuber, you're not God. But either way, out of all the things that I'd hope to change in the world, it sure as hell isn't how the gaming community doesn't tend to tolerate whatever BS someone on the internet tells them they have to believe in. The ability to have your own thoughts isn't something I'd like to change. I never want everyone to have this awful mindset presented by Jim throughout their video.
Why did I respond to Jason Schreier's tweet? Why did I do it? Why do I do these things to myself? That's all my replies have been for days.
You know what? Let's take a look at these two tweets and how insanely stupid Jim's quote tweet was. Just take a look at Jason Schreier's tweet for 2 milliseconds. He gives genuinely good advice to people with memory problems or just those who simply can't be bothered to memorize every quest. I know, I'm just as shocked as you guys that Jason gave competent advice. But how exactly does Jim respond to this? By being an ignorant crybaby. There's no other way to describe it. Jason gave a legitimate way to solve an issue in his tweet, and what does Jim do? Spurges out and essentially says, fuck you for solving my problems. I never wanted a solution. I just want to complain for the sake of complaining. Also, surely a game like Elden Ring would be perfect for someone with ADHD. After all, you're pairing a title that needs your attention 24/7 and one with tons of things to distract you at every corner with an attention disorder. There's so many things to keep your attention that I can't see how Elden Ring would be anything but a great experience for those with ADHD. The only reason you brought up your ADHD was to grandstand and to create a performance, the thing you're claiming everyone else is doing.
Anyway, Elden Ring. It's a very good game, While we're on the topic, it's quite forgiving by Soulsborne standards, but given the series' penchant for punishing its players' mistakes, that's not saying too much.
You're just admitting that out of all the games in the same genre of Elden Ring, it is the last one which needs an easy mode here. I'm not quite sure why you kept this in the video. It's a sentence you could have easily edited out, but given how painfully horrific your editing is, I'm not surprised you left it in. The Facebook GIFs and stock videos are awful to view. I have literally no idea why they're even being used. All stock videos do is make things look cheap, not remotely decent looking.
Regardless, there's been another shitstorm of debate over how accessible it should be, whether easy modes are the devil, and the merits of obtuse, willfully uninformative game design, and just... God, I'm tired of it. That's what I thought as my Twitter replies were inundated. I actually don't want to hear it anymore. The fan base is indeed fucking exhausting.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure trying to argue an illegitimate train of thought to anyone will be exhausting. After all, what you're doing is arguing something which someone could only believe in if they have at least a minute amount of ableist beliefs. Easy modes do not equal accessibility. The only way you could believe such a thing is if you think all disabled people are flat out morons. Increasing difficulty doesn't take away the vast majority of disabled individuals' ability to play a game, nor anyone's. All increasing difficulty does is require you to be smarter and more tactical. Unless you are an idiot, it doesn't at all make a video game less accessible to you. And I'm sure if Jim does respond to this video, they'll bring up how they have ADHD to show they can't have any somewhat ableist beliefs, even though not all disabilities are the same.
The get good attitude that has festered among hardcore Souls fans for years is truly contemptuous at this stage. Get good once started as a joke, but has since been taken far too seriously by people who stake far too much of their self-esteem on whether or not they can fight a pretend dragon without any friends.
There's yet another common problem with negative Elden Ring takes. The classic molding over people telling you to get good. No one in any community within gaming says that to someone, unless you are criticizing the game over you being bad at it, or because they are making jokes. Acting like the entire community some giant toxic pile of trash is not going to win anyone over to your wildly moronic side of the argument, although at this point it's very clear all you want to do is complain without quote-unquote resolution, because as much as you claim others to be ignorant, the only person being ignorant here is yourself.
It's worth noting that nobody's actually impressed if you're brilliant at video games. None of us actually care.
Well boys, pack up your shit. Esports is over. Obviously, nobody cares about how good you are at playing video games. After all, who on earth would want to watch esports and speedrunning tutorials or speedrunners? Wait, what? Esports is $1 billion industry and speedruns of Elden Ring alone can get millions of views on YouTube? That's not possible. Our Lord and Savior Jim Sterling said nobody cared about how good you are at video games.
There's no debate to be had here. No argument. I could actually provide a litany of reasons why accessibility in a video game is good. I could point you to Laura Kate Dale's Accessibility series. In fact, actually go look at that series, it's very good.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Oh dear Lord. Laura's Accessibility series is a monstrosity of idiocy. It is absolutely terrible. In fact, I've taken a look at it in the past because she made a truly terrible video talking about how Dark Souls needs an easy mode. If there is any channel you should not be pointing people towards in order to show them why Elden Ring needs an easy mode, it's definitely hers. I mean, for fuck's sake, she literally tried to change the meaning of the word easy in it in order to say Dark Souls needs an easy mode. Don't believe me? Then go watch my video and then come back here. All Laura's video does is show how stupid the arguments the people who want an easy mode in games like Elden Ring are.
But to make the arguments here on this show, I feel like I'd be wasting my goddamn time, because they just need to be said again the next time a hard game is released.
You don't at all have to do that. Just make one video on the subject like the Ackman did, and then keep pointing people to it whenever you want to address future topics about easy modes in games. The reason you aren't attempting to make any points in your video isn't because you can't be bothered, it's because there aren't any legitimate arguments to be made for Souls-likes having an easy mode, especially Elden Ring since it's one of the least difficult From Software titles.
and gamers TM glom onto it to swing their dicks around. Let me just say this. Plain as day. The more accessibility options a video game has, the better. And that's just that. That's just the way it is. This isn't a subjective opinion. There is no debate here. It's a stone cold, goddamn, fucking fact. Literally every game is better when it has more accessibility options. And the more accessibility options literally every game has, the better.
There's something interesting about the examples they show. Neither of these accessibility menus includes difficulty options. I wonder why that's the case. You know, it's probably because an easy mode doesn't make a video game more accessible. What would make Elden Ring more accessible is the points brought up in an actually good critique of the game that I pointed people towards from dynamic reactions earlier. Elden Ring has a severe issue with missing accessibility options, which are, at this point, basically standard within the industry. Things like colorblind modes are not present. Although there is a decent amount of controller button mapping available, there isn't full customization for key bindings, which means some people, like dynamic reactions with cerebral palsy, cannot play Elden Ring. If you actually cared about making video games more accessible, Jim, you would not be spewing rhetoric commonly stemming from ableist trains of thought. You would, however, be pushing for legitimate improvements in this department, pushing for colorblind modes, pushing for improved button mapping, pushing for the ability to increase font sizes in Elden Ring so those hard of sight can read the subtitles and messages, pushing for more settings to help those hard of hearing, like those seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy game. But you aren't doing that because you don't care. As you said yourself, this is all a performance, one done by many to appear virtuous to their viewers, and one that never works.
Like, it's never made sense to me that anybody would have a problem with more people enjoying a good game. First of all, more people having a nice time is never bad. Why would you not want other people to have a nice time unless you're a misanthropic shitfucker?
Jesus Christ, these insults are beyond the point of merely painful to listen to. They're akin to a toddler learning big words along with some naughty words and then just spewing them out into unintelligent strings of words. But regardless of that, I don't think Elden Ring needs to cater to anyone else. Just look at the bloody sales figures. The game has sold 13.5 million copies within its first 5 weeks. There is no need for them to cater to a larger audience, because from a purely statistical standpoint, the extra few sales they'd see from adding these few features would be minuscule. And it doesn't help that people like Jim are constantly making the problems surrounding a lack of accessibility inside video games stereotyped into uninformed virtue signaling and a waste of anyone's time to discuss. As much as Jim may wish to be seen as the knight in shining armor here, they are actually a part of the problem, and one of the main causes to these problems not being addressed by many developers.
Anything that dares to challenge or confront that is met with hostility. Because on the whole, a lot of these people only know or care about video games. They don't have other interests. If there's one thing Gamergate taught us...
Oh! What the hell's going on over here?
Oh, Frank's trying to kill himself.
Oh my God, is he all right? Frank, are you all right? Don't try to stop me.
At this point, even though I've had to cut massive portions of Jim's video out to save your brain cells, I'm sure you're all as depressed as I am. Thanks to the absurdly moronic statements they have been continuously making. It doesn't help that this video is so poorly edited, to the extent I've probably had to cut a third of it out of my responses. They just can't help but repeat themselves every 2 goddamn seconds, and can't help but say some dumb shit every 2 goddamn seconds. Gamergate happened in fucking 2014. Get over it already. Nobody cares about it apart from the equally pathetic individuals in comparison to those who actually took part in Gamergate, which in all honesty is probably only Jim now. How anyone can equate people not wanting From Software to literally ruin their artwork to Gamergate in 2022 is truly beyond my comprehension. It takes an insane lack of intelligence to make that comparison.
I'm all about the co-op. And that's what I mean when I say that I'm better at video games than you, than all of you. I am just the best one because I understand video games and you don't. Prick.
How on earth did a video as awfully constructed and a video with such hilariously terrible arguments in it get 17.3 thousand likes and only 3.8k dislikes? Their video outro didn't even match the rest of their video. I mean, hats off to Jim here. They've somehow managed to get a positive like to dislike ratio on this terrible video. Although again, it's always the most toxic and antagonistic individuals who adore claiming the Elden Ring community is vile as well as toxic. It's something I'm glad I can monetize because dear lord, I would hate to be making this video without any monetary reward. But thankfully we have finally reached the end of Jim Sterling's absolutely horrifically terrible take on Elden Ring and its community, which means I am going to go and take Quantum TV's advice in a second, because frankly their video sucked all the life out of my soul. But before I go do that, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers love to beg you to do, aka check out my Discord server, Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe, so that I'll see you all in the next video.